Again, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us. And we'll just go over a quick overview of Purdue. As you know, many of you know we're located 2 hours south of the city of Chicago and 1 hour north of the city of Indianapolis in the state of Indiana. So centrally located in the Midwest, very easy to get to campus if you fly into the O'Hare International Airport or the Indianapolis International Airport. There are direct shuttle companies that will get students directly to campus, so very easy to access campus from either of those two large cities. A little bit of an overview. This is our profile. These numbers were based off of our fall 2019 census. So within the next 2 weeks, we'll be doing a fall census of all the students who are enrolled for the fall 2020 semester. But we're currently evaluating who actually finally made it to campus, and those will be evaluating those who are engaged in their online classes and getting updated numbers. But the numbers will more or less be very similar to what we're presenting today. So our total enrollment is just over 40,000 students, and a majority of our students study at the undergraduate level. So a little over 33,000 undergraduate students at Purdue. Purdue is a public university, so we're the land grant institution in the state of Indiana. So just over half of our students, about 52%, are Indiana residents, and then the other half of our students come from really all over the world. So the United States, and then we have over 125 countries represented on our campus as well. So very much a global institution. And this is again with our profile. As I said, our students really come from all over the world. So you'll see the numbers in the states of where our students are coming from. So all over the United States and some other popular states our students come from: California, Illinois, Ohio, Michigan, and New Jersey. And then this doesn't have our international numbers on it, but we have just over 40 or 4,000 international students at the undergraduate level. And our international students come from all over the world as well. As I mentioned, 125 countries represented. Some of the popular places would be China, South Korea, India, and then some other ones in the top 10 would be Brazil, Turkey, Indonesia, and Malaysia, and Taiwan. So those are some of the top areas of our students and where they come from. Oh, looks like a poll just came up today. So just if you want to highlight in the poll, then the question that just popped up, where you are joining us from today as we are chatting about where our students are coming from. For the profile of our freshman profile, this was just really shows every year, the last few years, we've had broken our record with the number of applications we've received. So we don't know how this year will be completely different, or if we will blow numbers out of the water again. So, but typically we receive right around 55,000 applications to Purdue, and we usually admit roughly 30, a little over 30,000, 32,000 of those applications. Our ultimate goal typically is about to have an incoming beginner class of about 8,000 students, or a little above 8,000 students. As I said, we're still evaluating this fall and the number of students, but it looks like we're on target to have a little more than 8,000 students in our incoming class that's just starting now in fall 2020. And this just shows that our applications by college versus the actual enrollment for incoming beginner students. So you'll see, again, majority of our students are applying to engineering. So about 35% of our applications come for engineering, but our incoming class is about 28% of our incoming students are within the College of Engineering. So we do have some programs that are competitive at Purdue. So we receive far more well-qualified applications, and we have space for them for students in these programs. So when we say competitive programs throughout this presentation, we're typically referring to 4 different majors or areas of study, and those are computer science, engineering, nursing, and our professional flight program. So those are the 4 programs where we just receive far more well-qualified applications than we have space for. So keep that in mind. Of course, we have other great programs that are competitive as well, but those are the most competitive ones that we offer. A few other things to note on this slide, and we do allow students to submit a first and a second choice major on their application. So some students may the applications by college will be highlighting first choice majors, but some students are admitted to a second choice major. So a good example of this would maybe be exploratory studies, where you see we have our enrollment for that program overall is a little bit higher. So some students may apply to engineering or computer science or competitive programs will ultimately admitted and enroll in a second choice major. All right, Karini.
Yes, yeah. So now it's thank you for doing that, Danik. That was a great job kind of going over our freshman profile and our demographical information. I think it's a great overview for everyone. Now we're moving into kind of like the fundamentals of the application process. So if you're unfamiliar with our review process at Purdue, and you're looking forward to learning how to best advise your students so that they can navigate it, this is going to be a great portion of the presentation for you. Um, Through this portion as well, we'll also be talking about changes that we've made to our admissions process as a whole. So let's just dive right on in. So at Purdue, we have 11 different academic colleges and over 200 majors. We are a direct admit school. So what that means is that students must apply directly into a college and into an academic program. We're going to talk about those academic colleges in just a minute, but there's a couple of things that you should know as you're guiding your students through the common application. Once they select Purdue on the supplemental application section, they'll be able to apply into a first choice and a second choice program. If they are not admissible to their first choice, they will automatically be considered for their second choice. Students are not required to apply into a second choice program, and we don't recommend that students apply to second choices just because. We really want students who are genuinely interested in that second choice option because they could be admitted into that particular program, right? So as you're advising your students, make sure you let them know that if they're going to select a second choice major, they should be genuinely interested in that academic program. We have some restrictions for first choice programs. Competitive programs are only for that first choice slot. You cannot apply to a competitive program in that second choice option. So for example, competitive programs are engineering, computer science, professional flight, and nursing. Those programs are exclusive to that first choice option. Therefore, it is not possible for a student to apply to computer science first choice and second choice College of Engineering. That's not a possibility for them. So I think it's important that as you're guiding students, you let them know that competitive programs are only available as first choice options. They're not available as second choice. So just to recap, we have a lot of different academic programs. These are all of our academic colleges listed here. And a student must apply directly into an academic college and an academic major. I want to go over our programs briefly. This is a 30,000 foot view of all of our academic colleges. We are doing a much more in-depth session. It'll be on September 15th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And this will be a Meet the Colleges session. So we'll have representatives from all of our academic colleges here, and they'll provide a much more in-depth view of their specific college, and they'll also be hanging out for a Q&A session on that day as well. So you can ask specific questions to these colleges. But right now, I'm going to very, very quickly go over our academic colleges from a very high level. So first and foremost, I love getting started with our College of Agriculture. We have one of the best College of Agricultures in the world, currently ranked 8th on the planet. In the past decade, we've had 3 World Food Prize winners. If you don't know what that is, it's kind of like the Nobel Prize in agriculture. So it's a pretty big deal. So if you have any kids that are interested in anything like food sciences or agribusiness or anything of the sort, the College of Agriculture is an excellent option for them. Our College of Education really prioritizes the student experience. I firmly believe that the College of Education is one of our hidden gems here on our campus. A lot of people don't even know that we have a College of Education. They just think we're all engineers. But prior to coronavirus, prior to COVID, our College of Education actually offered an opportunity for students that were incoming freshmen to teach an English class in Guatemala the summer before they got on campus. So their primary objective is to expose students to different types of teaching opportunities, not just locally or nationally, but internationally as well. And they have so many different initiatives that students can take advantage of that are really just unique to Purdue. So I highly recommend that if you have a student that's considering our College of Education, this is a hidden gem on our campus. And we have more than just teaching majors. We even have curriculum development majors, for examples, and majors in special needs. So definitely worth checking out. Most people know us for our College of Engineering. Our nickname, after all, is the Cradle of Astronauts. We've sent more astronauts into space than any other university in the US. Our engineering program is consistently ranked in the top 10 in the United States. The most important thing that you need to know is that all freshman applicants must apply into the first year engineering program. Oftentimes, one of the biggest mistakes that they make is that they apply into, for example, um, aeronautical engineering technology, thinking that they're applying to aerospace engineering. And that aeronautical engineering technology program is actually in the Polytechnic Institute. It's a separate academic college on our campus. So it's really important that they apply into the first year engineering program, as all of our engineers come in undecided for the first year into first year engineering. And after that first year program is when they declare an engineering major. On their application, they can choose to put an area of specialization if they would like to. So they can say, I'm applying to first year engineering, but I'm really interested in nuclear engineering, right? But it is very, very important that the program that they actually apply to is first year engineering. Okay. Exploratory studies is the college for students that are debating between two or three different options, or just really have no idea what they actually want to do academically. Exploratory studies allows students to come in undecided and still take general courses that will count towards their graduation requirement, but will also satisfy specific college requirements and major requirements for the different programs that interest the student. And this is really important at a place like Purdue, where it is a direct entry institution, that students are guided in the course selection process. So that the courses that they select, even though they're unsure of their, eventual major, the courses that they select can count for, institutional requirement or collegiate requirements. And that's what the exploratory program allows students to do. So what we don't want is for a student to jump around from one program into another program into another program without really thinking about how, these courses satisfy general graduation requirements. That's how they end up getting, an extended stay at Purdue. So if you do have students that are really, really interested in exploring different options, or they're really just not sure what to choose, then exploratory studies is what I would recommend that you gear them towards. The College of Health and Human Sciences is, really dynamic college. You're going to find majors there like our nursing program. It is a direct entry nursing major. It is one of the top programs in the United States. It's competitive for admission, but it is an excellent program, and it's they just got well, it's not brand new, but it's pretty recent. I would say within the past 4 years or so, Lyles Porter Hall. And essentially, it simulates a hospital. So a lot of the experiences that our students are getting are directly on our campus. They have robots that their professors actually program them, and students have to diagnose these robots. And that building actually is a shared space with the IU Medical School that's in West Lafayette as well. So it's a pretty dynamic space for our nursing students. But they also have programs there like our hospitality tourism management program, currently ranked one of the best in the world, eighth best in the world, if I'm not mistaken. So we do compete with students, for example, from Cornell and their hospitality program. We have two fine dining establishments on our campus, and we have our own hotel on campus as well. There's a lot more programs in HHS, like dietetics, kinesiology, etc. So I highly recommend that students that are interested in anything in the human sciences, the health sciences, the life sciences, this would be a really great place for them to kind of explore and check out the majors there. Our College of Liberal Arts is also an excellent hidden gem on our campus. It blends together both of that small College of Liberal Arts feel, but also being in a large research university, right? So the College of Liberal Arts has about 2,700 students or so on the undergraduate level. So you do get those really small class sizes within CLA, but then you also get the resources and the feel of a larger institution. So it's really for that student that wants the best of both worlds. Some of the most notable programs within the College of Liberal Arts would be, for example, our English program, ranked third best in the US. We also have an excellent communications program top 20 in the country. A lot of different studio art majors, performance art majors are available as well to students. We have an industrial design program that's also within our College of Liberal Arts. So just a ton of different options for students. Additionally, the College of Liberal Arts has some really cool initiatives. We have something called the Degree in Three program, where students can actually graduate in 3 years instead of four through our College of Liberal Arts. So a really great way for students to save money as well, or to really accelerate their degree if they're thinking about going to grad school or law school or anything like that. Our Krannert School of Management is our business school. There's 11 different academic programs there. So everything from, management to supply chain management to a really cool major that's pretty new that blends together, industrial engineering and management practices together. So just a lot of different options for students. The really cool thing about the Krannert School is that it's really customizable. So a student can select a major or two and then select different areas of concentration, specializations, minors, certification programs, etc. So we really give a lot of our freedom, we really give our students a lot of freedom when it comes to mixing and matching and kind of creating the management program that they're interested in. Overall, it's an excellent business school, consistently ranked in the top 25 in the United States. Our College of Pharmacy is a 2+4, so 2 years of pre-pharmacy and then 4 years for that doctoral degree. It is not direct entry into the doctoral program, so students apply for free pre-pharmacy for those first 2 years, and then they apply to our doctorate of pharmacy program. The advantage of students coming in through our pre-pharm program is the fact that we tell them exactly what we're looking for from day one. So day one, they show up, they go to their academic advisors, and the academic advisors say, this is exactly what you need to accomplish to get into our 4-year program. So, if a student is applying from outside of Purdue, they don't get that benefit and they do not get that advantage. So I think it's really important that if a student is considering that 6-year PharmD program, they come to Purdue for those first 2 years so that they can do their pre-pharm here and they will know exactly how they are being measured and evaluated for that doctoral program. Our pharmacy program is consistently ranked as one of the best in the US as well. Last time I checked, we were number 7 in the United States. So an excellent College of Pharmacy program. We have our own pharmacy on our campus. Our Polytechnic Institute used to be formerly known as our College of Technology, and you're going to find a lot of technology related majors there, right? So you'll have programs like our cybersecurity program, our unmanned aerial systems program, so a drones program, mechatronics program there as well. You have all of our engineering technology majors there, which is kind of like the application for our traditional engineering program. So consider our College of Engineering on a more theoretical approach versus the engineering technology tends to lean more towards the application of said theory. Not always, but obviously there's some gray area in the middle. It's not an absolute one or the other, but I think it's a good way to kind of describe the relationship between those two colleges. Within our Polytechnic Institute is where you're also going to find our professional flight program. We have one of the best professional flight programs in the US and also the first professional program of its kind in the United States. We have our own airport on campus with our own Purdue fleet and actually jets that were donated by Delta at our university as well. And fun fact, Amelia Earhart was a notable faculty member at Purdue. If her plane is ever found, it's actually Purdue University property. So just so you know, some Purdue fast facts there. We have our College of Science as well, which is recognized internationally. We have two Nobel Prize winning professors that currently teach in our College of Science, one in our chemistry program and one in our physics department. Our College of Science also had the first computer science program in the US, and currently it is ranked one of the top 20 computer science programs in the world. So it's also one of our competitive programs on our campus. There's a lot of other really cool majors there, like our data sciences program and our actuarial sciences program as well. But like I said, for the more in-depth analysis of all these different academic colleges, you should join us again on the 15th of September. Last but not least, we have our College of Veterinary Medicine. This is where you're going to find our Vet Tech program, or as it was formerly called, Vet Nursing program. And this is also where you will find like our doctoral veterinary degree. which again, we have one of the top veterinary colleges in the US, top five, and we have two animal hospitals on our campus, one for smaller animals and one for larger animals as well. So that is a very general overview of Purdue University. We have obviously a lot more programs and we can really get into the nitty gritty here, but this is a very overarching view of our institution.
Good, Cranny. I think that was a great overview. We
Thank
can
you.
move on to the basically the steps to apply to Purdue, and this is where we'll be highlighting some of the changes or considerations we'll be making this year in this new COVID-19 environment. So to start off, this is, I will say, this is primarily for beginner students or students who will be applying as a freshman to Purdue, these steps in this process. So if you are working with students who may be applying as a non-degree for a non-degree while they're in high school or as a transfer student, they will apply through our website and they will be different steps for those students. But our beginner students apply using the common application, and that is one of the changes that are this year that we will no longer be accepting the coalition application. So if students in the past could have used the coalition app, this year we will be exclusive to the common application. So we still support the coalition application and their mission, but it was a small percentage of the applications we actually received, and there was just a lot of technical things in the background on our end to keep that application up and going. So we did make the decision to only accept the common application for this upcoming year. When students select Purdue on the common application, they will be asked two questions, and those are going to remain the same this year, and they've been the same for the past few years. And we're going to ask students to answer why they're applying to Purdue. So it's not an essay; it's just a short answer. We tell students a brief paragraph of why they're applying to Purdue, and then we also ask them why they're applying to the major that they chose. So they will select once they select their major, explain briefly why they chose that major, and then they also, if they select a second choice major, will answer that same question in regards to their second choice major on their application as well. On the application, students can self-report their grades and their test scores, and we know that test scores this year we are going to be test flexible. So if students were able to take their test scores or have the opportunity to, they can report them. If students do not have the opportunity to take tests this year, we are flexible with that, and we will review their application without the SAT or the ACT. So that is our policy regarding that. So we are being flexible in regards to reviewing applications with the SAT or the ACT. For international students specifically, we do also require a proof of English proficiency, and that is for any student who is not a citizen of who is a citizen of a non-English speaking country. They're required to submit a proof of English proficiency. That's typically done through the TOEFL, the IELTS, or the Duolingo English test. Something new this year, we will be temporarily accepting that Duolingo English test to allow students to prove English proficiency. So any student who basically needs to have a visa to study at Purdue to prove English proficiency, they're required to submit those results. The TOEFL and IELTS have also come up with at-home versions of their exam, so students don't need to go to a testing center to take these in this new environment. They can take them online and at home. They just need to schedule a time. So those are a few of the changes there in regard to test scores that we offer at Purdue. Also, I just want to point out too that we do consider undocumented or DACA students as domestic. So those students would not be required to prove any sort of English proficiency, and they would be considered as a domestic student.
Thank you, Danik. So yeah, I think it's really important to emphasize that test flexible policy. If the scores are available, they can send them in. But again, if the student is not available to take the exam, then we will not be requiring that for their admissions review. And Janai here tells a story of, how he was speaking to a parent, and the parent explained that the student could take the test if they drove 6 hours to get there and then 6 hours back, right? And that to us sounds absurd, right? So as you are talking and advising your students, you know, we do not want students to go out of their way to these extraordinary measures to take the SAT or the ACT, especially during a time like we're living right now. So Please use your judgment, your capabilities, and your leverage as high school counselors to advise students in the best way possible, because we really do understand that these are unexpected and challenging times for all of us. So we really do give our counselors a lot of autonomy this year, especially to guide their students in the best way that they see fit. When it comes to the essays, this is going to be very important for us, especially this year. Please tell your students to take the time to write thoughtful responses. We don't do interviews on campus or off campus, so this is the one opportunity that they have to directly communicate with the admissions staff. Um, Also, I know that this seems like intuitive, but they really need to proofread their work. I know that you tell them that all the time, but it's one of those simple things that can really make a world of a difference, right? Um, a couple of years ago, I read an essay from a student who wrote about hunting for pheasants with his father. He misspelled pheasants every single time, and he wrote down peasants. It was by far one of the most disturbing things that I have read in a good long while. Okay. And I know that the student didn't intend to send that, right? Like, obviously, that's not what they were intending to send, but it really changed the tone of the whole essay. And it just didn't look very favorable for that student. So, and it's one of those things where Word is not going to catch that, right? Spell check is not going to catch that. Those are both words. So just please make sure that you're telling your students to proofread their work. Another story is the Honors College, for example. They care a lot about their supplemental essays, and we're going to talk about the Honors College in just a second. But one of the things that Mindy Hart says quite often, she's the recruiter for the Honors College, is you can either be a part of the Honors College or apart from the Honors College, right? So it's little things like that that really do make a difference, and I think it's really important that you convey this to your students. And then last but not least, we do require an application fee. That application fee is $60. A student can request an application fee waiver if they, one, receive free or reduced lunch, two, received an SAT or ACT fee waiver, or three, if they are a 21st century scholar. Over the past several years, we've also been expanding that to students that have been affected by natural disasters, right? So we just had a couple hurricanes hit the US. If a student was negatively impacted by a natural disaster, this is one of the ways that they could get their application fee waiver for it, waived, for example.
Awesome. So now we're going to talk a little bit about how we evaluate applications. And um, this year's we're definitely going to be looking through applications, I think, in a different lens as than we have in the past, with all the different circumstances that have happened all over the world, that are definitely going to impact the way we review applications, as well as the way that students will be applying as well with the credentials they have. So in our application review, we're going to be looking for the minimum high school coursework. Most students, if they're doing a general college preparatory um, plan throughout high school, they're going to meet these. Every once in a while, we'll have a student who maybe their high school requirements were varied a little bit, but the minimum coursework is 4 years of math, and I think sometimes some schools only require 3 years, so students need to make sure they're meeting our requirements and taking the 4 years of mathematics. We also require 4 years of English or English composition or speech coursework. 3 years of social science and 3 years of science. So typically, um, biology, chemistry, physics for the science, and for the social science, typically economics, history, geography, those type of sociology and psychology as well will count for social sciences, and then 2 years of foreign language. So that's pretty straightforward. Most students in their curriculum automatically meet that, but make sure that students, especially if they're applying for competitive majors, definitely need to meet those minimum courseworks. We are always looking at grades. Of course, we want to see that students have what it takes to be successful in college. This year, we know that grades, especially for the last semester that happened this spring, and then maybe even these fall semesters, that grading may be the scales may be different, or maybe pass fail, and we definitely will be taking that into consideration in our review. But we do need to see good grades and making sure that students have what it takes to succeed in college. The strength of the curriculum, Purdue definitely doesn't have, I guess, a preference. We don't matter what curriculum students take, but we want students to do well in whichever curriculum they're in or part of. So, well, this is where maybe the high school profile comes into play, where we take a look and make sure that the student did well and thrived in their environment and in their context. And that's what we're going to be looking at and making sure that they if they did the minimum or if they exceeded the minimum or if they maxed out the AP or the honors classes that they could take at their school and how well they were challenging themselves throughout their high school studies. So there, sorry, we also want to make sure that the coursework is relevant to the major that they're applying to. So a few examples, of course, if a student's applying to nursing, we need to make sure that they've done well in their science courses and have done specific science courses. Or if they are not doing well in science, then maybe that the nursing major will not be the best fit for them. The opposite is true. If students are applying to communications and they've struggled with maybe their math classes, we'll definitely take the context of the major they're applying to into consideration while we're reviewing the application. For academic trends, we're going to be looking at, we want students to, have an upward trend or a consistent trend. So I will definitely, I think a big thing we look for is consistency when it comes to their academic performance. And if there is some inconsistencies, if there's any reasons behind, a lower grade or things is what we're going to be looking for. So definitely either an upward trend, great strong trend in their grades and inconsistencies we definitely look for in the application process. And then the SAT or ACT scores, which we've covered, but this year we're definitely going to be, we are flexible, test flexible for the SAT or ACT scores. So we're still, learning just as much about this as how we're going to be reviewing the applications with or without SAT scores, but we are going to be flexible and we will give full review to the context and will not be requiring the SAT or the ACT for an application to be reviewed.
Thanks, Danik. I think this year is going to be really unique for us because we're not going to have, at least we assume that we're likely not going to have test scores, in the same way that we've had them in the past because students have not been able to take them. So what that means is that we're going to be relying a lot more on these subjective factors that you see right here. And the weight and emphasis we've always placed on these more subjective areas is now going to become increasingly much more evident, right? So extracurricular activities have always been quite important for us. We believe that it's the best way to shape our community, right? So when we're trying to shape a class, we want to make sure that we have students who are going to be engaged and involved and dynamic members of, our institution. It's not an accident or, just a coincidence that we have over 1,000 clubs and organizations on our campus. We have strategically selected students that would contribute to our community in such a way. So as you're guiding students through the application process, I think it's really important that you let them know that we're going to be really carefully looking at all of these other subjective areas, right? And obviously, we're going to be considering things in light of COVID. So, students may not have had the opportunity to attend that summer camp that they attend every year, or maybe they're not able to participate in the community service projects that they've done historically. But if they were able to transition what they were doing into a virtual setting or into a virtual process, it's something that we're going to be looking at and considering as well. So I think it's just really important that they just share whatever they can, whatever they've been involved in historically, and what they're involved in now. Just to let you all know, we have a poll going. We really want to know how your high school was impacted. So if you could let us know if most of your students are going to be A, fully in person, B, fully online, C, hybrid, or D, other, it would be a really great way to give us some context now prior to the application review process. And while you fill that out, I will keep telling you about our review process. So something else that we look at carefully are the recommendation letters. We actually do not require recommendation letters in our review process, but they are strongly encouraged. And we don't tell students whom should submit that recommendation letter, right? It can be whomever they want. Obviously, it could be a teacher or a counselor, or it could be a counselor and their baseball coach, or if they did an internship and they think that person would be a better fit. But we really don't want any more than 2 recommendation letters, so have them select their recommenders wisely. Counselors, if you are selected to write a recommendation letter, please share with us the context of, your high school in this particular year if you can. Let us know how COVID impacted your students, how you've adjusted and adapted. It's going to be really important for us moving forward to have a general sense of how your students have been impacted individually. And if you can share that in the recommendation letters, that would be really helpful. I know that the Common App this year is adding an additional section or an additional essay as to how COVID impacted the student. Honestly, every student should be filling that out just because it's going to provide us additional information and context as we review their file. And context is going to be everything this year. It is how we are going to evaluate students, um, first and foremost, because we know that COVID has really changed things in unique ways for most of our students. The time of the year that students apply is also very important. We will be talking about our deadline soon, so just hold on to that little footnote right there. And Purdue major and college. The way that we review applications at Purdue is by academic program, right? That's why students apply into a program and into a major. Some programs are inherently more competitive than other programs. Example would be professional flight. Professional flight has very limited capability because we only have so many airplanes on our campus, and we cannot exceed our capacity or else students will not get the flight hours that they need to graduate. So for programs like professional flight, it's really important to let your student know that that program is inherently going to be more competitive than other programs where we have a lot more flexibility for admission. For example, in our Krauner School of Management, we have a lot more resources and space available than in professional flight, where we only can bring in a certain number of students for the planes that we have. So as you're guiding students that are applying to extremely competitive programs, just let them know that some of the reasons why those programs are so competitive, it's because of the space capabilities. Personal background and experience, this goes back to context, context, context. This is all of those other elements. So as Danik was mentioning, different students have access to different curriculums in their high schools. Some of them are APs, some of them are IBs, some of them are dual enrollments, etc. We are really going to be looking at students contextually. We've always done that in years prior, but this year even more so. So I think it's really important to let students know to pay attention and to provide a detailed answer to all of the elements on the Common App. They should really take the time to thoroughly respond to all the questions, to give us as much information as they possibly can, as much context as they possibly can, because that's going to be the information, the data that we will have available to make our decisions. So they really, really want to put the best foot forward. I see we have a question here from Jane, and I'm going to take the time to answer it because I think it fits nicely into this section. Um, we have the COVID statement on our profile and are using the option for counselors on the Common App. Do you want it in the counselor letter as well? That's a really great question. So if the COVID statement is on the profile and also going to be an option for counselors on the Common App, we will not also need it in the letter as well. Some high schools choose not to send their profiles. That's kind of sad. We always encourage high schools to send their high school profiles because it really helps us out. So if it is on the profile and if you're also putting it on the as an option for counselors in the Common App, we would prefer that. Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to talk about some of the decisions that students will get from Purdue. So when we release our decisions, these are going to be some of the options of the decisions they'll receive. And we're going to do another session closer to decision release. So I believe it's on January 13th, if I remember correctly, and that's on our Counselor Connections website, and we'll get you reminders about that. But that'll be a little more of a deeper dive into the decisions that students will receive and what their options will be with those decisions. So first, admit, of course, of most all students, apply with the intention of being admitted to Purdue, and we do admit students, and it'll be for their first or their second choice. So we try to be as clear as possible in the acceptance and in their emails and communications with students if they were admitted to their first or second choice. And then pending, we also have, so I was going to also say, we have a summer start admit as well. So that we do have a program for, it's called Summer Start, and it's for those students who they have potential, but maybe they didn't have the strongest application. So they showed maybe some really strong grades, and then maybe, something happened in their personal life and they struggle a bit, but now they're looking like they could be successful and do well. So students who are in those areas where they really show potential, another example would be students who did well academically, but maybe they took the SAT and just didn't didn't test well, or the opposite. They tested really well, but their academics so any of those students who show a little bit of inconsistency but also show potential, we may offer to a program called Summer Start, and that is a program where students will come to college a little bit early. They'll start in July, and they'll basically do a full semester of classes, and they will. Once they go through that program, they'll be, formally, they'll be able to just continue on to their degree at Purdue. So it's just providing a little extra support for those students in our Summer Start option. We also have a pending. This is very used very rarely, but it's for students who we just want an additional piece of information. So it most commonly will probably be students who we want to see their first semester grades of their senior year, just to make sure that they're progressing as they need to, or just to have a confirmation of their grades. Again, that's a decision we release, but it is not very common that we do need to ask for pending for additional materials. Of course, students will be denied, and again, they'll be considered for first choice and then their second choice. So typically, our deny decision would be for the first and the second choice option. Um, we also may recommend students to our regional campus. This is used most commonly for in-state students, for Indiana residents, but we can also deny a student and refer them to one of the Purdue regional campuses, which would be Purdue Northwest and the Purdue Fort Wayne campus. We also have a defer option. So this will be for our students who applied early action, and we just were unable to make a decision based off the information that we had on file. So we will defer their application to the regular decision round and review their application again for that round. We also, of course, have wait lists. So this would be students who we say, you have a competitive application and you can be successful at Purdue. Just fortunately, we just don't have enough space at this time, and those students can be opt to be on the wait list. So our students, they have the option. They do have to opt into the wait list, but they do have that option that we do offer them. And these can all be for either their first or their second choice major. So students can be deferred for their first or second choice. They can also be waitlisted for their first or their second choice. So we usually, when we review their application, we will make that decision based off the one we think that will be the best fit for them to be deferred to or waitlisted to. Transfer, we can also recommend if students were denied that they attend an institution elsewhere, and then they can always apply and be considered as a transfer student as well. Students can request reconsideration for any decision that they received. So, for example, if an admitted student wants to request to be considered for another major that they were admitted to, we do allow those requests. Or, if, of course, if a student was denied and they want to be request consideration, they can do that as well. One change that we're making this year, it's a minor one, is that students who were on the wait list, they cannot appeal their decision. So we were running into some technical issues where students were opting into the wait list and then appealing their wait list decision. So this year, students who are on the wait list, they will be able to provide us with a statement of continued interest, where they can express interest to Purdue and their continued interest. So they'll be able to upload a document to their online application portal that will basically be more or less a letter where they can express that they're continue to be interested in Purdue, and they won't be able to appeal their decision per se. All right.
All right, I'm going to quickly go through our application deadline. So our application is already live. So if your students want to start working on that, they can feel free to do that. The next thing is our FAFSA deadline. Our FAFSA goes live October 1st. So students can start playing around and filling that in if they would like to. The next deadline, and probably the most important deadline, is our November 1 early action deadline. If a student would like to be considered for merit-based scholarships, if they would like to be considered for our honors college, and if they would like to be considered for the following 4 programs: nursing, vet nursing, professional flight, and computer science, November 1 is a mandatory deadline for those programs. If a student misses this deadline and is interested in those 4 programs that I have just mentioned, they will not be considered for that admissions process. So really important that you emphasize that if a student is interested in being considered for merit-based scholarships, the honors college, nursing, vet nursing, professional flight, and computer science, that they apply by November 1. Complete application, everything has to be in. Specifically for the honors college, if they miss this deadline, they will not have access to the 2 supplemental questions that are required in honors college review. So if a student is interested in the Honors College, there are two additional essay questions that they have to fill out. And you can learn more about that in our Honors College website. Plus, the Honors College will be at the Meet the College session on September 15th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So feel free to join us and they can walk you through that as well. January 15th is our regular decision deadline. Please note that students that apply anytime after November 1st, but before January 15th, they're considered regular decision. They are not considered for any of our merit-based scholarships. So it is really, really important that if the student is interested in being considered for scholarships, they apply by our early action deadline. March 1st is our priority FAFSA deadline. However, we strongly recommend that a student submit the FAFSA much earlier than that. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So please just hold on to that footnote. And then May 1 is the deadline to accept the offer of admission. So the student has until May 1 to decide whether they are enrolling at Purdue and if they've been accepted to the honors in the honors college, excuse me, if they are accepting that offer as well. And then May 5th is our deadline for the housing contract if a student chooses to live on campus. And if they're choosing to be part of a learning community application, to fill out a learning community application that's actually due on the 5th of May. Just so you know, on September 17th, we will be having a student life discussion for our counselors. So you'll learn more about housing and different things like that for that session. So if you're interested in joining us, that's one of the next sessions in our series. But the most important thing, as I mentioned before, is that November 1 early action deadline. I'm not sure why it's not coming up on here, but decision release is on January 15th for students that apply prior to the 1st of November and complete an early action application. So January 15th is our decision release for early action, but it is also our final deadline for regular decisions. So that's a really busy day for us all, just so you know.
I also think a lot of students are asking, if we've made any changes to our deadlines because of COVID-19 or because of the testing options available to them, or if they haven't had the SAT or the ACT and they want to take that and get it to us. But no, we have not made any changes to our deadlines. If we do, I doubt we will, but if we do, they will be updated on our website, and we have an FAQ, COVID FAQ page on our website where you can go and any updates or changes as a result of COVID-19 will be posted there. But the answer right now is no, we have not made any changes to our deadlines at this point.
I will post the link to the admissions FAQ right
Great.
here.
Thank you.
Mhm.
This next part, money talk, and this is our Purdue. The tuition at Purdue has been frozen for 8 years now, and that's very, I think, unique to Purdue. It's very rare for any school in the United States to have freeze tuition. As you know, most will raise at least 1 to 3% each year. So Purdue is very unique in being able to tout that. Right now, tuition, I believe, is froze for another year, and we just don't know after that if it'll be what will happen. That will be all up to the Purdue administration and the Board of Trustees at Purdue. One thing I want to point out is that, of course, tuition and fees. There are some majors that have an additional fee associated with them. So, for example, maybe our engineering or computer science, some of those majors do have just an additional fee associated with them. Not all of them, but a few of them do. The room and board here is just a good estimate of what the room and board will actually be. But once a student gets assigned their actual room assignment and their actual meal plan that they choose, it could vary a little bit depending on where they get placed on campus. So the range is typically between 8,000 and 15,000 for room and board. So that is only an estimate when students are looking at the tuition and fees for Purdue. I do also want to point out that international students do not qualify for scholarships or financial aid at Purdue University. So when we're talking about the scholarship deadlines, those only apply to students we would consider domestic. So typically U.S. citizens or U.S. permanent residents. But we do not consider any international applicants. So any student who would require a visa to come to Purdue University or to attend Purdue University do not are not considered for our scholarships or financial aid. If those students, there will be opportunities for those students to apply for our merit-based scholarships once they're enrolled at Purdue. So based off their major or their academic department, international students can apply for those merit-based scholarships once they're enrolled at the university.
So let's talk a little bit about financial aid here. I think the most important thing in this slide is that March 1st is our FAFSA deadline. We do recommend that domestic students, even if they don't think they're going to get anything, that they should apply for financial aid because it could open them up to other possibilities like work study or potential loans that they could solicit. So I think it's important for them to apply for the FAFSA prior to the 1st of March. When it comes to scholarship selection, we actually prefer that the FAFSA is filled out even earlier. There are specific scholarships that domestic students can qualify for that require a FAFSA on file. Not all of our scholarships do, but there are a few scholarships that require a FAFSA on file. First and foremost, to maximize scholarship consideration, university-wide merit-based scholarships are offered by the Office of Admissions, and they require a complete application prior to that November 1 early action deadline. These scholarships are for all 4 years, and they are awarded to approximately 10% of students by academic college. So 10% of the students in the College of Engineering, 10% in the College of Education, so on and so forth. Supplemental scholarships are awarded by the respective college, right? So we, the Office of Admissions, have no control over how supplemental scholarships are awarded by the distinct colleges. These are also available for students to apply every single year. So it's not like the university-wide merit-based scholarships that are only awarded once for a 4-year period. Supplemental scholarships are available for applying at a yearly basis, and these are the scholarships that international students can apply for after they have been at Purdue and that are awarded by the specific department. So not awarded by the Office of Admissions. And like I said, FAFSA on file is preferred prior to the 15th of December. And then last but not least, we really want to encourage you all to get on our mailing list if you are not already on our mailing list. And encourage your friends to also get on our mailing list so that they can learn more about our webinar opportunities and all the different events that we're going to be doing for our counselors throughout the fall. So if they're not on our webinar, would highly recommend that you join our webinar. I'm going to put, join our mailing list, excuse me. I'm going to put the link to our mailing list here on the chat. So if you're not on it, join it. And if not, send it to a friend.
Yeah, we're about, that was almost a full hour. So I think we're finishing up here. But one thing also I wanted to point out is a lot of students are asking us, we're getting lots of questions if we're hosting visitors on campus, and we currently are not hosting visitors on campus. We don't know when we'll resume. At this point, it most likely will not be until either later this month or even early October, if we're even able to. So there is no answer on that, but we do offer virtual daily visits as well as a host of online opportunities for students. So actually students can engage with us in many different ways and actually more than they ever could before in this new environment. So if you go to our website that Karini just posted there in the chat as a list of all of the virtual opportunities, that will be an in-depth presentation from admissions office, or it could be a very in-depth presentation from the Office of Future Engineers or the College of Liberal Arts. So whatever the student's interested in, they can look for those different opportunities.
If there are no further questions, I would like to thank you all so much for being here. It was our pleasure to chat with you. Please stay in touch with us. Please remain connected. If there are any changes to our admissions and review process, because right now we are in really uncertain times, right? So if we change our dates, our deadlines, if different things, are affected, we are going to notify you. We really want to have this open communication. So just please stay tuned for any messaging from Purdue. Danik, is there anything else you'd like to add as we're wrapping things up?
No, thank you everybody for joining us today. We hope it was helpful, and as always, we're always here if you need to contact us for any questions that you have.
So thank you so much for coming. I hope you have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.